After more than 800 kilometres, the 19th year of the Santos Tour Down Under all rolled to a halt in the centre of Adelaide in glorious summer-like conditions. The riders faced up to 20 laps of a 4.5 kilometre circuit, and all was about the sprint points and the King of the Mountains, because it did seem, Paul, that Richie Porte in the ochre jersey simply had to finish to win.
Yes, but the man on the front in the white and blue spotted jersey, the Subaru King of the Mountains, was locked in exactly the same King of the Mountains point as Richie Porte, and he knew he needed to get away before the end of lap 10 for the first of the King of the Mountains summits at Montefiore.
And as the high-speed riders got round the circuit in just under 5¼ minutes and an average speed of 51 kilometres an hour, the sprints were on for the seconds that could make a difference. At the first sprint point, it was McCarthy on the left claiming the 3-second time bonus, and with it a move into third place overall in the race.
It was a perfectly timed move, but as the race started to get themselves on together, they were stretched out for a long time. And it was the man who was wearing the leader's jersey in the Subaru King of the Mountains that used all of his tactical nous to get away to the top of the climb in first place and 3 points to give himself the overall lead.
So Thomas de Gendt to finally move clear of the clutches of Richie Porte. He would win that competition now. Then there was more counter-attacking. Restrepo, the white jersey of best young rider, consolidating a 3-second time bonus on lap number 12. And that would give him 10th place overall in this race. Not bad for a very young rider.
Yeah, there was one more ascent of Montefiore, but it wasn't really that interesting because the King of the Mountains competition had been locked down by Thomas de Gendt. But the main field kept the pace high at 46 kilometres an hour average speed.
A large crowd for these past 2 days of racing under lovely warm conditions. The man in the red number, Jack Bauer, for the last 2 days the most competitive rider of the race, was voted it for a third day in a row for his constant attacking, especially as the race neared its end.
But with a lap to go, it was the teams of the sprinters who were virtually in control of the front end of the peloton. It was Orica Scott in the dark green and blue jerseys trying to lead out their man, Caleb Ewan.
But as they tussled up towards the line, the man in red, Caleb Ewan, unbeaten in the sprints this week, being taken on by the world champion in white, Peter Sagan. The result just the same as it's been all week. A win for the man from New South Wales and second place for the world champion, who was beaten for the third time on the line by the top sprinter of this year's Santos Tour Down Under. But overall, as Caleb celebrated a clear victory here, overall the victory going to Richie Porte. He would win this race now by 48 seconds. The victory salute, out of 6 possible chances, Caleb Ewan had won 4, but the 2 key stages had both been won by Richie Porte. Let's hear from Caleb Ewan, the man who really was on top of the sprints.
Well, Caleb, what an amazing performance there to round off a very successful week. 4 wins out of 6 stages.
Yeah, I can't really believe it. You know, coming into this tour, I actually joked with my girlfriend that I'd win 4 stages, and yeah, really, I can't believe I have with the caliber of sprinters here. You know, it was always going to be hard beating Peter Sagan, even if he's not in his best form. You know, he's still the best rider in the world at the moment. So yeah, you know, I'm just so happy with the performance I've had.
Having come back from that very nasty accident to the Rio Olympic Games, how difficult was it to have the form to come and win the Santos Tour Down Under?
Yeah, I mean, after crashing in Rio and you know, injuring myself quite nasty in a nasty crash, you know, it wasn't too hard to be motivated for this race. You know, I had a good break at the end of last season. I've come back refreshed physically and mentally, and you know, to win this race, it means a hell of a lot, and you know, it's a credit to this race, just how big it is.
And how sweet is it to finally, on the final day, know that you've got the winner's Ochre's jersey?
Yeah, I mean, it's brilliant. You know, it's the journalists will say that the race is over yesterday, but it's by no means over. This is a hard last criterium, and you know, it's always you know, a bit hard on the head to, for me especially, you know, to a race like this. So to get through it unscathed and win the race finally, it's a fantastic feeling.
You bet. And first of all, the king of the sprints here. 4 stage wins out of 4 flat stages on this race. You can't do better than that. Caleb Ewan now brings historically his total up to 6, and he's moving up amongst the big winners of this tour. He is, of course, the sprint champion of the 2017 Tour Down Under. The man who takes home the final ochre jersey. He's been second twice, he's been 4th. Now he's the champion of this event from Tasmania. Richie Porte wins the race by the 2nd biggest margin ever, 48 seconds over the Colombian Johan Esteban Chavez.